The explore mode is what helps you get out there and see what's happening. It lets you dabble in a lot of things. But at some point, you need to exploit, which is you need to go deep into particular things. Before we get started, today is a Monday, right? So for a lot of you, it means start of the week. For people who are side hustlers here, maybe you don't really take weekends off. So for you, Monday is just another day. But I want to ask you one question, okay? This is just for myself, okay? Which do you think I am, right? I want to understand what your understanding of my productivity is, okay? So I'm going to describe two types of people, 1 and 2, and you're going to tell me which one I feel like, okay? Type 1 is I am somebody who's very, very productive, right? I'm just like, I have something to do. I put that down and I get that shit done, right? Am I type number 1? That's number 1. Number 2, am I a more chill person? Am I just like, bro, let's go with the fucking flow. Let's go with, the universe. Let's just do what feels right. Which type of person do you think I am? The reason I'm asking this is I'm going to talk about these two styles. Type 1 is figuring out something to get done, going right after it, doing a sprint and just clearing that. Okay, that's type 1. Type 2 is chilling, just figuring shit out. As I'm asking you this question, I want to ask this question for yourself as well. Which type do you consider yourself? This is your perception of me, but I want to ask you, if you asked the same question to somebody else, what would they say? Would they call you a type 1 or type 2? And the reason I'm asking this is today, I want to start off with a little bit of productivity. It's a trick question because ideally you should not be just one of these two types. Okay? The correct answer is you need to do both. Let me describe that a little deeper. Type 1, getting shit done. You'd be surprised to know there's a lot of amazing, very talented, creative folks out there who just cannot focus on one thing. They want to find new things to do. They're always chasing new creative projects. They're always on the lookout for something interesting that, is more fun to do, maybe more fulfilling. But if you're purely that kind of person, right, who's just chasing new, I know a lot of creatives who are type 2, who are just like, let's go with the flow. Let's figure things out. If something feels right, I'm going to do it. The problem is that's not really a good way to go if you're trying to be intentional about your career. The correct answer to which one am I am both, right? And I think most people are both. It's just a matter of which one do you let dominate your life even more. One of these styles of productivity of getting stuff done is absolutely needed, right? If you're somebody who just lives in the world of ideas, you might not be executing enough. I've seen a lot of talented, creative folks who just can never get that focus to one thing. And if they could, it would be killer, it would be insane, but usually they jump onto a second thing, right? A lot of people stay in exploratory phase for too long. They're like, I have gotten to this point in my career by exploring, so I'm going to keep exploring. But something you have to also realize as a creative is you cannot be just in explore mode all the time. Sometimes you have to be in exploit mode. This is an analogy I heard on Gaurav and Bhavin's podcast. Founder of Unacademy, Gaurav, and Bhavin Turakhia, director. I think this was some event, okay? But basically there are these two modes of explore and exploit. And the explore mode is what helps you get out there and see what's happening. It lets you dabble in a lot of things. But at some point you need to exploit, which is you need to go deep into particular things, right? This is something that I really struggled with. The reason I'm even able to talk about this is something I've been through. Right, for the first couple of years of my career, I was just explore mode. I just wanted to do stuff that was interesting. What that means, however, is it prevents you from diving into certain projects. And usually the crazy results, right? You can keep doing different things, expecting crazy results, but crazy results often come with boring processes. It means just doing something in a particular direction for weeks, for months, for years. There was a time when the longest, this was a good while back, there was a time when the longest project I had ever done was maybe a few months. So I could never imagine myself taking long-term projects, focusing on something for the long term. That has changed for me because now I know that most of the gains that I've gotten over the past few years have been not because of trying a lot of stuff, which I also still do, more than I probably should be doing, but it means focusing down. So, the first thing I just want to start with is think about which mode you are in. Are you an explore or are you an exploit? If you have one leg in both of these modes, then you might not be fully going into one of them. A lot of people assume that creative work is all of type 2. It's just exploring shit. But no, it doesn't. It doesn't include that. A lot of creative work is boring, consistent work that you have to keep doing. So if any of you are learning skills, I would say, stick to it. Stick to it because a lot of the experience comes in the long term. Devanshi is in class 12 and tried UI UX design. What next step should I go for? Devanshi, I think to put it in simple terms, the way I'll tell you this is find what is that thing that you think you cannot do, that is too challenging, that seems out of your reach, right? You've just gotten started. I don't know what exactly it would be for you, but think about what is that, now that you know something, what's that next thing that seems out of reach, that you cannot very easily get? And then set that as your next short-term goal and go after it. That means if that thing is maybe being able to design really good websites, or maybe it might mean designing something original, right? Maybe you can design with Figma, you can put something together, but you can't really create original work. Maybe that's the thing you focus on. Or if it's a case study that you want to do, you can do screens, but you cannot do full products. Then maybe that's the thing you focus on. But wherever you are right now, you want to figure out what's that next thing that seems out of reach. Make that as your short-term goal and just go after that. Because in design, there's so much more you can do, right? I think a lot of people, one of the reasons they get sidetracked is because there's so many things you can get into. You can get into 3D, motion design, you can get into illustrations, UI UX design, web design. Maybe you want to get more into music as well. In the end, your creativity can be channeled in a bunch of different ways, including all of these examples I gave you. And you can eventually do all of these things. But for a job as your income stream, you can probably just do one, right? So I would suggest thinking really hard about what's that one thing you want to get into, the thing that will make you money. Because once you have money coming in through one of these, right? Maybe you get only into web design and you're exploring all the other stuff on your own time. It gives you some freedom. Having one of these income sources, again, the person who asked this, she's in school, so maybe this is not as relevant. But everybody else who's exploring a lot of fields, realistically, only one of these fields will be the ones that make you money. And again, that's also a generalization. Maybe you can figure it out. But what I would suggest is picking one thing and going deep into that, right? At any given point of time. You cannot do 7 things at the same time. What do you think would be better in terms of not burning out? Multiple niches on the same niche as your job. Yash, I would say you need to try both. Okay, you need to try both because it's different for different people. A lot of people are okay context switching, right? Like they can be talking about the deepest level of detail and then they can totally zoom out and talk about systems. They can be talking about something here and then they can very easily context switch to something else, right? A lot of people require focus into one particular thing. So the answer is it depends. You would probably want to try both. Divyansh says, I'm into design for the last 1 or 2 months. I feel stuck. Divyansh, good news and bad news, right? The good news is that it's very normal. Most people feel this way because they don't feel like they don't have a path. It feels like there's too many paths out there. So that's the good news, right? You're not alone. Most people are facing this, and that's one of the reasons we do these streams, to be able to talk about it. The bad news is I do not have an answer for you. The ways to make progress are a few. I can tell you a few ways to make progress. One of the reasons we have these cohorts that we run, whether it's BX or the UI UX design program, is because the ways to success, there are a few predictable ways that you can follow. There are a few predictable paths that within a few months, within a few years, you will make progress as long as you follow that path. But the ways to get stuck are infinite, are unlimited. So the way that you are stuck is probably unique to you. That's the bad news, right? There's no one single thing that I can tell you which says this is how you can overcome, because the thing that's blocking you is probably unique just to you. But my suggestion to you would be the things that help you make progress are probably common for everybody. So really think about what's that thing that's keeping you stuck. and whether you can switch to a path that helps you make progress. That's the uncomfortable answer, right? Which is the things that help you make successful. There's probably a few of those. There's a few things that if anybody follows, they can make themselves successful, right? It's quite predictable. But the things that keep you stuck are unique to each person, right? And that requires real good self-awareness. Kafi mushkil hai, bro. Follow-up question from Divyansh, right? Which is how to know about your blockers, the thing that's blocking your growth. The simple answer is, Divyansh, nobody can help you with this, right? Maybe I can help you figure this out if I know your situation, if I know where you're coming from. But then, dude, we're watching this on YouTube, right? We're separated by the screen. So I actually don't know your details. So I actually cannot tell you the answer. But in general, the answer is self-awareness. You have to get to that point where you can find that self-awareness. Or one of the reasons we do the cohort is because we have a plan. We have a 3-month plan. So a lot of people who enter to these cohorts, the blockers they have just fall away because we give them a new path to follow, right? So I don't know what your scene is, if you're even thinking of applying or not, right? I'm not going to force you towards that. But your blockers, bad news is you're the only one who can identify them. But the good news is if you can figure that out, if you can figure out how exactly you can find your blockers and fix them, you will be making faster progress than most people, right? It's very common to not know your own mistakes. It's very common to not know your own blockers. But the thing that separates very successful folks from maybe not so successful folks is that self-awareness. So to summarize how to find it, it's one at a time. You probably have one in mind already. One thing that you can change within this week that can help you. Try that out. Is that the thing? You'll figure something else out. It's a continuous process, right? Just get started on that. If you enjoyed that video, please, of course, let us know. Leave a like and comment. But besides that, this is what we do for a living. We help creatives and designers level up in their careers. If you'd like to join one of our live programs, we do them a few times a year. Check out the link in the description. It's 10kdesigners.com. And I'll see you around.